The Danville City Commission for this afternoon, evening, Monday, May the 23rd. The hour is 5:30, and I will call us to order and then ask that we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner Jenny Holland. Commissioner.
Let's bow our heads. Let us pray. We humbly come before you, Lord. Pray that we all come together today in an attitude of servitude and to do what's best for our community in Danville. I'd like to also remember, with Memorial Day approaching, to honor and remember our men and women who have died while serving in the U.S. military. May we never take our freedoms for granted when the greatest sacrifice for our country has been given. May we never forget. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. I ask that we be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Miss Kathy Miles. Ms. Miles, come join us, please. Come right up here, please. Come right up. Thank you, ma'am. If you hang on just a moment. Yeah. You do get a door prize. Yes, ma'am. And I'm gonna ask Commissioner Cottle to do us the honors, please, sir.
Thank you very much.
I have not heard anything to the contrary, so I will assume that the agenda meets your approval and move right on to hear the public. This is the public's opportunity to take 3 minutes at the microphone to address the commission on any item that is on tonight's agenda. There'll be a similar opportunity to do the same later in the meeting on items that are not on tonight's agenda. With that said, is there anyone that wants to address any subject on the agenda? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, moving right along to the item 1, and that is the approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. And there are a number of meetings in there. May 19th, May 9th, May 19th, there's the 2 of them. Chair will entertain a motion at your convenience.
So moved to approve the minutes of both meetings as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is a proclamation for the National Garden Week. Ms. Miles, I think that's you again.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Garden Club of Danville to ask that you proclaim the week of June 5th to the 11th as National Garden Week. We have been in existence for 87 years, raising vegetables and flowers and making beautiful this community, and we appreciate all the support that you all have given in the past for the work of the Garden Club, and ask that you proclaim that week as National Garden Week. We will be delivering flowers to a good number of you all throughout that week to help with that celebration.
Thank you, ma'am. And if you'll join me center stage, we will do just what you asked. Whereas gardeners have a passion for nurturing the beauty and resources of the earth through the planting of seeds, excuse me, the care of all plants, and the riches of their efforts. And whereas gardeners seek to add beauty, splendor, fragrance, and nutrition to our lives through the growing of herbs, vegetables, foliage, and flowers. And whereas gardeners tend to work to preserve our country's traditional spirit of independence and initiative through innovation and hard work. And whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures, large and small, that share our world and their roles in a balanced and productive ecology. And whereas Gardening furnishes a challenging and productive activity for our citizens, for those just learning, as well as those having years of experience. And whereas gardening promotes a healthy lifestyle that lasts a lifetime, helps reduce stress from other areas of our life, teaches that rewards can come from diligent efforts, and whereas gardening enables members of the garden clubs across the nation and the world to make a notable difference in the communities where they reside and work, and furthermore, let it be known that the Garden Club of Danville is celebrating its 87th year of aiding in civic beautification and promoting conservation and protection of our natural resources in the community of Danville, Kentucky, and Boyle County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in conjunction with the designation of National Garden Week by the National Garden Clubs of America, that Mayor G. Michael Paris and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville do hereby proclaim on this 23rd day of May, 2022, the week of June 5th through the 11th, 2022, as National Garden Week in the City of Danville, and urge the citizens of Danville to participate in activities supporting this effort.
Amen, and thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Do I hear a motion for the proclamation?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries, and we thank you for what you do.
This is the garden club?
Yes, ma'am. Spend it wisely.
We will.
Thank you. An organization that's near and dear to my heart. Item 3 is the solid waste collection update. Mr. Greg Butler is with us this evening, and we thank you for joining us, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So my name is Gregory Butler. I do governmental and community affairs for Republic Services here in Kentucky and also in Ohio. Sort of engage with communities like Danville throughout the region. I have 4 topics to sort of touch on, and then I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have, and I'll do my best to answer those tonight. So I think top of mind for y'all is probably our cart replacement program. It's something that we committed to on our last contract. Unfortunately, and probably not surprisingly, we've had some challenges due to COVID and supply chain and all the things that you've heard about for all the reasons why things aren't working. What we did along with that is we did an audit in last fall, right? So after the new contract, we identified all of the carts that were either broken or misbranded in the community. And our commitment is to replace all of those. That's just a snapshot in time, though, right? So anything that was broken afterwards, we still need to learn about that and know about that. We've replaced 100% of the broken carts that we identified in that audit. We have about 20% of the containers that are in the community are misbranded, and we're working through that right now and anticipate that being done by September 1st of this year. We've also done just about 1,000 other cart actions, let's say, replacements or repairs that are outside of that audit in 2022. So the work continues to go on. As Josh and his team notify us of issues in the community, we address those. On our next audit, so we're going to do this annually to sort of make sure that we're aligned and have an understanding of who has what carts. They sort of magically move around sometimes, right? And so we got to figure out what those are. That'll happen every summer, and we're going to be doing that in August of this year. That time of year is really good for us because we have a lot of employee capacity that we can rely on, whereas other times of the year are a little more challenging. The next topic is new trucks and new technology, right? So we're investing, you've probably seen a couple of them already in the community. Instead of trucks that lift from the side, they have a box in front of them and they lift into that box. And so what that allows the driver to do is to see the cart in front of them. It also doesn't go as high, so they're less likely to break it, and they're also more likely to put it back where they found it, right? So it should help them. It's also much, much safer, and it allows us to do bulk collections and things like that without getting out of the truck, right? So that arm can then put that into the bigger box, and then that bigger box goes into the truck body itself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I find it's hard to explain these things. And then the really cool thing is that technology. As an industry, we're probably behind. We're not Apple, but we're really catching up pretty quickly. And all of our trucks will be equipped with tablets this year, and by the third quarter, so by September 1st. And that'll allow the drivers to report in real time what is happening, right? So if there's a reason that we didn't collect material because there was contamination in the recycling or construction debris in the trash can, or the customer didn't even put their cart out, we can identify that immediately from the driver. If that customer signed up on our online system login, they'll actually receive a notification that tells them that. I think going forward, we're going to see that technology improve quite a bit. And our goal will be that if AT&T is working on a street and we're typically there at 8, we can then notify the customers on that street, hey, it's blocked, we're coming back this afternoon. Our goal, to be quite frank, is to eliminate calls to a customer call center. Nobody likes them, they're expensive, and it just makes people angry. And so anything we can do to really tell people up in advance what's happening or allow them to use an app or a log-on to report problems such as a missed pickup or a broken cart, the better. Everyone's just happier about it. And it's a lot easier to do accountability through that process. The third thing is COVID-19. It really impacted our industry quite a bit. And in all the ways you might imagine, commercial waste stopped and it shifted to the residential curb, right? So for the first time in really a very, very stable industry, we saw significant increases in volumes, and that caused an increase in labor. It caused us to run our routes slower because the truck would fill up faster. We'd have to go to the landfill sooner, come back, and a lot of changes. What's surprising is that those changes seem to be remaining. So as people continue to work at home, we're still seeing an increased volume, and our prediction as an industry is that that will not change. So early COVID, it probably spiked 30 to 40%, and now it's 15 to 20% nationally, and just around that number here in Central Kentucky. Just to say that things are changing. I don't know that I think we've adapted to that. Some of the new equipment and technology will certainly help. We've done every bit we can to keep our costs good and valuable to the customer, but it's an odd time in the industry. So we appreciate your patience as a community and all of that. And the last one would be recycling. So participation in Danville remains exceptionally high, particularly for Central Kentucky. The number one question we get asked is, does it get recycled? And the answer is absolutely 100% of the time it gets delivered to a recycling plant. It's a zero tolerance policy with Republic Services in the sense that if it goes to a landfill or if it gets misdirected without approvals, everyone loses their job, like all the way up. Now there are exceptions. So if somebody puts in a paint can in their recycling, it's full of paint and then it goes over everything and it ruins the load, it's beneficial for us then to take it to a landfill. But that process has to be documented and approved essentially not at the local level, but also the next level up. LFUCG, Lexington, is a great partner for recycling. It's probably one of the best examples of a private-public partnership in the state. They service not only Fayette County, but also many of the surrounding counties, including Boyle County and Danville. And we're proud to partner with them. They have recently completed an expansion of their plant. So their paper products are now expanded what they're able to take. It can be all the things that you used to, right? Magazines, newspapers, mail. Now we can take soda and beer cans, any sort of boxes that go into a refrigerator or a freezer, frozen foods, and cartons. So milk cartons, juice cartons, all that kind of stuff now can go to Lexington. We're really happy about this. I think it's a really exciting development to see that they're accepting new materials and that we're finding markets for those to go into. So that's my very quick, short update. I'm very curious if you have questions or if there's anything I can address with you all.
I have a question. With you making sure the branding's correct, will that have the correct, a phone number on there to call if the can is damaged?
We do not do phone numbers anymore because
Okay.
they're always changing.
Okay.
We have verified, though, that every number that's on a cart in Danville does go to Republic Services.
Okay.
Sometimes I find that those numbers get, if they don't get used often enough, right, somehow, some way, they automatically get erased. So if you ever find one, if you can let Josh know, we'll get it hooked back up. We do use our website. I think, the internet is the way, right? That's what we want people to be doing. I would expect before too long that we're putting QR codes on the carts, right? So you can look at it and see when is your date or what is accepted recycling material, things like that. That's not a promise. That's just a prediction. Yes.
So if we have an elderly person that may not use the internet, what are they supposed to do?
We'll continue to do the traditional methods of getting information out, right? And a lot of that is a partnership with the city, right, using all social media and things of that nature. For customers that we have their contact information for, like phone numbers, we do call blasts anytime something happens. So say there's a snow delay or cancellation, we send out those phone numbers. Due to the billing process in Danville, because y'all do the billing, we don't actually have a significant number of customers' data, right, if that makes sense. So the city has much of the contact information, so we rely on y'all to distribute that information.
If someone has a broken can right now, who do they call?
The city.
Okay. I live next to a nursing home facility.
Okay.
And I know that's a private contract,
Most likely,
but
yeah.
there's sometimes a lot of trash in the street and in the yards on our street
Okay,
that is not always ours.
fair.
And I have gotten a lot of complaints even recently about broken trash cans. So I guess I will tell them to call, what would that be, 238-1220? No, 1200?
Greg, am I mistaken? We thought all the calls were supposed to be directed to Republic for any customer service issues.
We're in the process of that transition, but
Okay.
the account data is a requirement for that.
So there is no number to call right now?
No, anybody can always call the city. 238-1230 will be the Public Works
1230,
Garage. That's
okay.
where Joyce handles any kind of solid waste calls at that office. But that should be changed soon. So
Yes.
we will update on that as we discuss it.
How hard is it to set up a phone number that you guys provide service to? I mean, we've talked about this a long time, and your contract explicitly, as I recall, and maybe I'm wrong, says you are supposed to handle that. You know, it's 10 months into it. How long does it take to coordinate the phone number on your all's end? Is there an office issue? How can we help you set that phone number up?
The piece of information that we're missing is the account information from the city of Danville.
I'm struggling to understand, what is the customer, when they call that number, can they not provide you their information? Why do you need contact information if it's a customer in Danville with an address? Help me understand that. Because we've struggled to get, quite frankly, we've taken a huge amount of administrative time and cost, direct cost, to administer the contract.
Certainly.
And I don't understand, I thought you were coordinating the phone number at this point, which is why you mentioned a few minutes ago the phone numbers were on the can. I don't
They're
understand.
not on the cans.
Well,
Okay,
they're-
okay, so we were saying that some phone numbers are on the cans, they go to Republic. Republic is supposed to have, in your contract, a point of contact for our customers. And I'm struggling to understand, what can I do, what can we do as city staff to help you just have a phone bank? I don't understand why you need I'm a little disheveled by it, because that's not the answer I would expect.
And did you just say you're moving away from phone service? That's why I was asking, what's an elderly person
It's
with
not
supposed to do?
consistent with what
What's anybody supposed to do,
we
really?
ask you to do. And so I don't understand a little bit there either, frankly.
Okay. May I answer this question first?
Yeah.
That's our goal, is to make it easier. The phone service will always continue to exist, I think is the short answer. We also, in that contract, negotiated the exchange of information between our company and the city of Danville for accounting. What that'll allow us to do, and this is an area of knowledge that I have a limited amount, right, surface level, is that we need to be able to set up individual accounts for all of the residents that exist in Danville in order to service them that way. The way it's currently set up is that the city of Danville provides us with a number, right, of customers, and we bill off of that
When did you do your audit?
in November.
So
I
why
think it's when it was completed.
what information can we provide you that you don't have?
The audit was focused on carts. I mean, that was the
The
intention-
carts that may need servicing?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It was a cart.
And
model.
so your contract is supposed to have a representative that we get response from that can help. And right now, and I'm speaking from Josh may not be willing to take the position I'm taking, but we spend a lot of time, a lot of staff time administering your responsibility in your contract. You have a significant contract. And I'm a little bit surprised at your response, to be honest with you. on behalf of the commission, I'm not asking them to talk, I'm taking that position
And
myself.
I will,
I hadn't heard that.
I will agree with that. The problem is the service at the curb. That's the problem. That's the biggest complaint. That's what the customer sees. And that's the biggest problem we have.
Can you elaborate? Like,
Well, I will specifically, we've had pictures that I know that we've sent to you of cans that have been knocked over, that are sat back down, damaged, not, sat back down spilling garbage down the street where we've had to send Public Works out to pick it up. And we've had numerous complaints like that we've sent to you. I don't know how you're going to reconcile those if you don't yet even have a phone number that our customers call.
And even when,
So
sorry,
you're-
this is something that my husband has dealt with a lot because this is kind of his thing. He has called that number several times and nothing happens. They act like they don't know anything. He has to give his information over and over. And then when we drive down our street, and I'm sure everybody else has the same problem, it looks like the little mean kid has come down the street and kicked everybody's garbage cans over. And just last week, my can was over in the entrance of the nursing home next to me.
Okay.
How does that even happen? So that's what the customer sees, that's what the citizens see, is the service at the curb. And it needs to improve.
Yeah, we've had an instant where a resident, has had to have a discussion with your driver and became a little bit confrontational as it was passed on to me. And it was as simple as your driver just poured the can out in his driveway, and he had to literally pick the garbage up to move his car. And so, and as I understand it, although every time I've given Josh a complaint, those are passed on. And so maybe we need to set up a meeting next week that gives you a chance to hear what just a little bit you've heard. And let's be back together towards the end of next week. I'll let Josh set it up for you. We've got a budget meeting Thursday, I think. And so what we would like to do it after that, so Thursday afternoon or Friday. But we would like to understand what your intent is in terms of setting up a phone number at the minimum, and then how are you going to address the cans?
Thank you for your feedback. The cart placement is a driver issue, so that's something we'll address with our team tomorrow morning. I think it's sometimes education is a continual thing, right? It's not something simply that you just say once and then you have to do it. We have to reinforce things such as safety and also customer service, and so that's something we'll certainly highlight. I heard you clearly, and it's something we'll take care of.
Thank you.
So,
totally.
Josh, you're going to get back in touch and set that up.
Yeah, we'll set that up. I think, so Greg and I have talked about this. They want our data from our water billing accounts, and we've been uncomfortable with providing all of that. And also, I don't think, we don't have the information that you all can really use to do those. I mean, we don't have phone numbers for everybody, and so it's not, you're not going to get any more information than just an address and a number of carts. I mean, that's
The name, the address, and the number of carts is critical to setting up the account system internally so that we can manage all customer service at our customer service center. It's
Yeah.
why we included it in the contract.
Yeah, not to argue, but I thought that was part of your audit. I mean, you're providing that to us, and we're very, I mean, so your audit should have the information that you're seeking from us. That was the purpose of the audit, to verify can placement, quantity of cans, number of cans at each unit, because of your billing is related to that.
That's correct.
Okay?
It's a
So-
cart
So,
audit.
so I don't understand what information you're even asking from us.
Names and addresses, right?
Well,
The
and to that
account
point too,
information-
our red flag rules on utility accounts are strict, and I think we've had a lot of discussion on that internally as well. If you wanted to have direct contact with the addresses that are served for individuals to set up their own accounts, I think that's completely fine. What we're not okay with is with the city providing all of that information to you just without consent of the customer, which are utility customers, and that we're not just privy to sharing that information without consent.
I think perhaps to Mr. Coffey's point, this would be better suited for discussion next week.
That's a good idea. Now, the bottom line is we're all looking for a win. We're all serving the same customer. I know that's what you want. I know that's what we want. this is a hard role for you individually, because I'm sure you don't come before commissions or governmental bodies and everybody's handing out roses and that kind of thing. So it's a tough gig. I appreciate the role you're playing here and the way you're going about it.
Thank you.
We'll get to yes, and having been to a New York City after 1 week of the sanitation workers strike, I can tell you, we're glad you got a crew, and we're glad you do what you do, because it is a tough job.
I appreciate that, and I do think we'll get to yes.
Get there. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes,
you.
sir. Safe travels. Appreciate you coming. Item 4 is resolution number 2022-05-23-01. This is an agreement with the Boyle County Schools and their buses. Mr. Evan Teague is with us, sir.
Thank you all for having me. In your all's packet, you should see an agreement that I've supplied you with. Basically, what that is an agreement to utilize Boyle County Schools buses for transportation for our day camp. We had a slight hiccup this year as the food program had changed due to COVID. In previous years, we have always picked up the free lunches and free breakfasts from the schools, and we're able to bring them back to our facility to provide for the children. This law will change in July, but currently for June, kids must eat on site. So as you all know, I think I informed you all last visit I had, we have about 75 camp kids and with a waiting list. And I think it's crucial that we feed those kids breakfast and lunch, and in order for us to provide that transportation to make sure they're fed. This is obviously a good way to go about it in partnership with the schools in the agreement.
Do you hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2022-05-2301.
Thank you. Commissioner Holland, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cottle, thank you, sir. Discussion?
How many are on the waiting list? Is there any way, what would you need to get the waiting list folks, enrolled or taking part?
I think it requires several different things. Our current space at Bunny Davis is limited. I think the transportation could help out where we could utilize Jenny Rogers more often. I think that's the overall goal is to try to transfer that camp towards Jenny Rogers. Obviously, the pool is a big amenity to that day camp as well. So we want to try to keep that number at a safe number that we can handle as a staff, one, and two is, approximately how many kids can we get in that pool. So I think in years past, we've constantly went up over the past couple of years. I think last year we only held about 65, 60, somewhere around there. Maybe the previous year before that, only 50. So we've come to the conclusion that 75 is a strong number, and there will be a lot. So that's new for us, but I think we can adapt and handle that well.
I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for going up even those few.
Yeah,
So
it's
much
tough.
appreciated with many parents.
Obviously, we don't want a list, and I think in the future that's something that we will do away with. But currently, right now, that's probably the best thing for us.
Understand.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Evan.
If there are no further questions, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 5, City Manager Report. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I really don't have a lot. I want to mention the newsletter. We're working on publishing that. I know that's been, we've been, staff consumed by the budget, but we're getting that together, and we're working on it this week. Also, Josh, do you want to talk about the splash pad for a second and give them an update on what happened?
Sure. We got notified Saturday of several slick spots and some people falling. So we immediately closed the splash pad, and we've worked today to clean it off. We still think there's some areas that are a little bit slick, so out of abundance of caution, we're going to keep it closed, and we're going to try to put down a non-slip sealant or coating on it to try to get it a little coarser to make it safe. We're hoping to have that done this week is kind of the goal, because we know the weather's bad this week, so it gives us a chance to try to get it ready for Memorial Day weekend. So that's the goal right now, but we'll keep you all updated and keep everybody in the community updated as we make progress.
Is that something we expected? I mean, did we know that could happen, or?
Seemed to be there was a chemical spill that contributed to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely some beaded up water areas. Just when I was there this morning, it looked like different than other areas. So we kind of assumed there was something spilt on it. But then we tried to clean that off. But there's also some other areas that we thought, well, this just out of an abundance of caution, we're going to try to do a little bit more. And it's also something we discussed, like maybe every spring before we open, reseal it, try to keep it as rough as we can to keep this from happening in the future. Because we want kids to be able to run around on it. Like, we don't want to say, no running, everybody staying still. We want it to be somewhere where kids can play, so.
Well, and you have that issue at pool decks all the time. I know Evan will attest that we've repainted that out there with grit many times over the course of time. And so it's just one of those issues that can happen, and so we'll monitor it and respond accordingly.
Can I use this time to request the grant writer position
Sure.
for Thursday?
For Thursday's agenda? Yeah, sure, we'll put it on there.
Thank you.
Yep.
What other comments, sir?
That's all I have.
Then we'll move right on into commissioner comments. Mr. Terry, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Mr. Atkins? Commissioner Holland?
Give one more shout out to the Garden Club, since it's National Garden Week. We have a lot of committees, but some are working committees, and that's a working committee with the men and women. And also a shout out to James Ross, who has really worked hard to get started a lot of the community gardens in town. So thank you, everyone involved in those things.
Good deal. Mr. Carter?
No, I was just going to mention the splash pad. I live down the street, and it was amazing how many people were there, I guess, before the big fall. But I'm sure they'll come back, but it was incredible. It was really cool. Looking forward to getting another one or two of those out there.
Last Friday, I was at a meeting of second-class cities by classification. And one of the presentations that I want to ask our city manager to include at our next commission meeting, wherein we're to be, have on that agenda the John Roush to address the EDA, right?
He was here last Thursday to address the EDA.
Okay, so he's not coming to a regular commission meeting?
Not planned yet.
Okay, then anyway, at the next commission meeting, I'd like for you to reach out to Tad Long.
Yep.
He's got a wonderful presentation that should help us all have a better understanding of economic development in today's marketplace. I've discussed that with him, so he's awaiting your call. Along with that, last Friday was a presentation by a gentleman with Kentucky Wired. If you're like me, you're sitting here and you've heard of the final mile, the middle mile, all that. We've heard that there's broadband here, there isn't broadband here. We've talked about all these different aspects of it, and this was the first time I've had anybody say, these are the facts. This is where we are, and these are the things that you have as options, and we need to be addressing them, everything from public-private partnerships to what kind of technology do you use to, I won't get into all that, but it is a definitive presentation that I think would be beneficial to us. Third, I'd like to add to our discussion for Thursday, a breakdown in our budget for the cemetery committee. I'm on record as saying I don't think we allocate enough to that sacred ground, and having been there again for the fallen officers ceremony last Wednesday or Thursday, you know, if you stop and just look around, you realize we need to up our game in the upkeep. It's an expensive piece of property to maintain, but I take it as a moral obligation to make it the best it can be. And then finally, Evan, the question was presented to me that there are buses from out of county that are coming to Millennium. And the question was, how do buses from people from out of county come to Millennium if there's not an organized game? I mean, what is the supervision there? What's the policy?
Mayor,
with
let
respect?
me address that. There's schools that do tours in our community.
Okay.
And for example, I know of multiple times where they've been to the art center as an easy thing to point to. And they will then lay over in our park, which is normal. I mean, that's how a lot of times how they end up there.
Okay. That answers the
It's
question.
simply a layover.
Got it.
And lunch, that's correct. Teachers get out and organize, and then they continue on.
Speaking of fallen officers, it's been a tough week in the police world in our state, and I just want to make sure that we remember our fellow brothers and sisters in blue. And you skipped here the public.
Oh, I did, didn't I? So, with that said, we'll back up a step and go into the Hear the Public, which, as I promised, is an opportunity for the public to address any subject that has not been on tonight's agenda. Got 3 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity.
And your name, please, ma'am?
I am Susan Weston, and my favorite Dr. Seuss book is The Lorax, which begins with the Lorax hops out of a tree stump and announces, "I speak for the trees." That is the quality of my mandate here. I've decided to push on air quality. And I'm here to advocate for our city and our city buildings, for our employees, for citizens, for folks who come to these meetings, to see what we can learn and do to get air quality to good levels. For me, this is about fighting the horrible virus, which is going to chase us for the rest of our lives. But a thing we can do is have our indoor air be more like outdoor air. 150 years ago, cholera would blow through Danville, through our water system, and cost us precious people. That doesn't happen anymore because we built our water system to keep that from happening. Over the next 10 years, I think the whole country is going to go to work on, let's make air quality a thing that stops this virus from messing with us. We don't have to wear masks. We don't have to argue with each other. If the air quality is good, that solves it for all of us. So I'm walking around with a device. It says at the moment, we got almost 1,600 parts per million of CO2, which is, outdoor air is 400. Indoor air in your house might get up to 600. This is way above that, which means we're sharing a bunch of air right now. And if any of us have the virus, it's floating toward the rest of us. So my ask is, across city buildings, to encourage you to look at what do we know, what could we learn about what air quality we have, and then think what could we fix, which could be that wonderful fan staying on for more of the meeting. That's a thing that really helps if you got good ventilation. And then in some places, maybe we'll need to add something in the way of filtration. A filter that'll grab the virus, do what Mr. Atkins' mask is doing right now, but do it without any of us having to wear them. So I'm going to be the Danville person who shows up tenaciously and encourages that. I'm planning to be really cheerful. I know it's a new idea, but I want to encourage you to look at learning about it and look at what we could do to make all our buildings better for employees and for citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm curious, where do you get that little gizmo?
This is an Aranet 4. It's about $200.
Oh, never mind.
Well, if you hang around, I mean, not everybody wants one. My husband was very proud of me that I managed to wait 4 months from when I first saw one till I bought one. But we're going on a plane this weekend, and I'm going to know what we're dealing with. And it's for some people to have it, for some people to pass them around, that's fine. And if anybody says, could I borrow it for a couple of days? Once I'm back from Philadelphia, somebody else could wander around, seeing how it works. It also talks to my phone, which is how it builds graphs. So it's one of those cool modern things. Thank you.
I'm curious, when you get back, I want to hear about the plane and the reading on that, because I'm trying to remember the statistics that I heard, but the air in an aircraft cabin is circulated once every 2.5 minutes, which is about 10 times more efficiency than a normal commercial building.
It seems to be really great when the plane is in the air.
Yep,
And the
correct.
struggle right now, all the gurus who have engineering degrees who are working on this are popping up their pictures to say, when people are getting on and off the plane on the ground, we need you to spend a little bit of extra fuel to keep it on during that time. So it's like, it's completely true in the air. They're not convinced to drink, and you can feel that when you get on the plane. You get on the plane and you take off your sweater and you sit down, the plane gets in the air and you put on your sweater. That's the air going on and off. I just heard the air go off.
Yeah.
That's probably responsible, but that's a thing to think about, is what can we do to get to it's pretty consistent and it's safer than we've been, because the horrible thing is going to chase us.
Yep.
And we can fight back because we're not helpless.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Mr. Hung, come join us, sir.
One question for Earl. Has Meadow Lane's been put on, Meadow Lane Cemetery been put on the mow list?
One more time, Mr. Hunt, I'm not sure he,
I heard you, Josh's answer.
Yes, we added to the mowing list last year.
Last time somebody was out there, it looked pretty bad.
Okay, I'll check on it tomorrow.
anyone else? Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Tracy Butler. I just wanted to bring to your attention a maintenance need we have in the city. Primarily a safety concern first, but also something that's going to promote the goals I know I've heard you all talk about increasing participation in downtown businesses in particular, and access to all of our public buildings on a regular basis. The sidewalks of 4th Street between Main and Lexington are really in a undesirable shape. They are hazardous even to the most able-bodied folks under ideal conditions right now, and impassable for those with any type of mobility issue. Both sides, both east and west sides on 4th Street. And so I would encourage us to, first of all, I'd invite you to walk that path. Just start at Main Street and 4th, go down, cross over at Lexington, come back up, and I think it will be obvious the many issues on both sides, the entire path. So the sidewalks need to be repaired. Also, there are no truncated domes at the intersections for folks who need that type of assistance as well. So that will give, everyone access to our public buildings, library, courthouse, and then onto Main Street, regular access, regular safe access, and also encourage folks, when we do have our downtown events, that they can park at the library, the courthouse, all along 4th Street, have access to those 4th Street businesses and events downtown on Main Street and further out.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got that, Josh?
Mr. Mayor, I want to call everyone's attention to the Brass Band Festival coming up before our next meeting. It's going to be a full-blown festival this year, so get out and support.
Thank you for that reminder. Anything else from the public? Going once, going twice. Moving right on into the next item, which is the payment of the bills. Chair will entertain a motion for the approval of the payment of the bills as presented or amended.
I move for approval of the bills noted on the bill list in the amount of $297,193.37.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7 is resolution number 2022-05-23-02. This is an engagement letter with RFH. Our CFO, Ms. Lee Compton, has the floor.
Yes, finance director, but This is just to present our engagement letter for the fiscal year June 30, 2021 financial audit. We need your all's approval and signatures to get that underway. Do you all have any questions?
Are these the same folks that have been?
They are the same folks that have done our audit for the last several years. They are ready and eager to get started.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2022052302.
Thank you, Commissioner Hollins. Your second?
Second.
Mr. Atkins, thank you, sir. Discussion?
What's the procedure to choose this company? Do we put that out every so often?
So I think historically, we have put that out every so often. It's probably been a couple years. We definitely can look into it, looking at doing it again in the future. We don't, procedurally, you don't have to do that for an audit firm, for certified public accountants, but it is a good practice to do that. Because it is so far delayed, doing that would delay it further. That is something we can look into, though, if that's your all's desire.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Item 8 is the aquatic facility update. Mr. Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Should be a presentation. I had them put it up on the screen as well, so everybody can take a look at it. I received this from our consultant at the end of last week. We can just kind of walk through it together. I don't have the button to change slides. Here it comes. So their usual introduction slides, survey summary. We've been through that a couple times already, so we won't go over that much tonight. And this is what I was afraid of. These pictures aren't going to load on here. They're very large files, but you have them in your packet. It's the site. It's kind of a site layout of the fairgrounds. And this is the kind of the original layout that you all have seen in the past. That has the tennis courts, the baseball field, the multi-purpose turf field, and the EMS site. You've seen this before. They've done some updating to it. We wanted to provide you that, and then on the next slide would be a comparison to that site with the aquatic facility on it instead of the multi-purpose turf field. As you can see, the aquatic facility plus the parking required for it would take up a similar space to the multi-purpose field. So in that scenario, you would pretty well just lose the multi-purpose field. I don't know, and there now loaded. So that's the original layout with the turf field.
Or at the multipurpose field there.
Right.
But if you take out the multipurpose field,
See if I can get the one with the
all that's the
with the
same.
aquatic facility to
You just
load.
have the parking lot and the pool instead of multipurpose field.
It's not going to load on there. Okay, I'll move on. And then, our consultant group, they put together this kind of list of benefits and challenges with placing the aquatic facility at the park, at the fairgrounds. They point out the benefits of it. It's city-owned and operated, which is a benefit and a challenge, and utilizes existing asset and its adjacency to the Millennium Park and the park offices. Connection to other facilities there with the shelter and renovated barn, and there's overflow parking throughout the park at that point as well, and potential second access. The challenges are we lose our multipurpose synthetic field. Proposed fire station parcel may be compromised. Looking at the layout, I think that's something we could figure out with some more discussion. Staffing and programming, all that would fall under the city's purview. And then we would have to build the required parking and infrastructure to support the facility. at that site, and introduces more traffic into that site, which if we were trying to keep the EMS building, that area with its own dedicated entrance to keep it from having to interact with park traffic or school traffic or anything to the south. We'd like to keep it that way, so that limits to one entrance kind of off the fairground, off of the bypass into the fairgrounds for the aquatic facility and all the other things there. That's another issue that we would have to work through the numbers and try to figure out what those traffic demands would be. Operational estimate ranges. I talked to a consultant today because I needed some clarification on these numbers, and you all probably do as well. There's some considerations and assumptions with the operations. So down at the bottom, they've brought a consultant, a sub-consultant on board with them to help with these pool numbers that does pools, and we'll get into work with them more later. But those two numbers are annual operating costs that you see down there. That's the clarification I needed. That's an outdoor pool, a standalone facility, and then an outdoor pool attached to an existing facility. And what they're looking for efficiencies where it's attached to the wellness center. Say, are you gaining efficiencies with staff that can do things that they're already doing now with the existing facility? So they saw about a $15,000 savings annually with those efficiencies, and I think that's because we're going to have to bring in staff either way to staff this facility.
That has nothing to do with construction costs, right?
That's not construction cost.
Right.
And I tried to get some numbers from them today on that, and the number I got back was that parking lot that we would have to build is 180 spaces. If we built that parking lot standalone in the fairgrounds, it would be about an $800,000 line item by itself. Now, you're going to build a little bit of parking at the wellness center to supplement that, but so I think there's a delta there, somewhere probably about $500,000 is probably the difference in cost. The hard thing to predict is the infrastructure cost. Now, we have decent infrastructure at the fairgrounds, but we're going to have to take it a longer distance to get it there, and those numbers are just hard to predict at this point. I mean, I think you're going to be close to, I don't know if it'd be $1 million. I think some of these infrastructure numbers I've seen lately when we've talked about other projects we're talking about the fairgrounds are huge. But I think that's a little inflated just with the situation right now with bidding and what, they don't have the data yet for where our infrastructure is out there. I think they're going to see we have good infrastructure on site to reduce those numbers. So I think you're probably going to end up more, if you're $500,000 for the parking lot, you're going to end up more in $750 range after infrastructure changes. So that's kind of your change in construction cost. I got a number from them 2 weeks ago to build just that standalone pool. If you take out parking, you take out all the infrastructure to get it there, they were looking at just that pool facility, that outdoor pool facility. They were looking at about $3 million. So, if we start adding in the parking, you're looking at, going from 3.5 to 4 to 4.5 million, those kind of changes in your construction cost. So that gives you all an idea of where we would be with that. The next slide is, they asked the question, where do we go? And it's just kind of listed, I think we're at a point now, we've picked a direction and we start heading that direction. And we haven't really even nailed down the details at all. If we decide to go to the wellness center, what from McDowell, how we handle that. So do we keep going that way and try to firm down that partnership? Or, that's kind of where we are with the decision making.
And how much did you say it would cost next to the wellness center for the pool, the same pool price?
Well, so that's what they were thinking, the pool itself costs the same at either place. Mm-hmm. What the additional cost if you move it to the fairgrounds are the things you'll have to build that you don't have that you do have at the wellness center, which is parking and potentially some infrastructure. The parking lot, that you're probably spending about $500,000 more on parking at the fairgrounds. And infrastructure, like I said, it's hard to predict. We really have to figure out how far we need to run infrastructure at the fairgrounds to get it there. And we don't have that information quite yet.
If we were to have a workshop on this in a week or two, would we have more information?
I don't think you're going to have much more than you have now. Unless we dig into a real study and we bring in that consultant and have them, it's probably going to be more than a couple of weeks. If we really want to it's going to take them some time to get more firm construction numbers at both sites. They're going to have to spend more effort on that, and I don't think it'd be a couple weeks. It'd probably be a couple months because they're going to have to dig into the survey data. They're doing a site survey now. They have that data now for the fairgrounds, but they would then have to do a site survey for the wellness center and take that kind of next to the next schematic design level to get those construction costs at a point where we could really make a much more of a comparison than we have now. And that's what I asked them to try to, okay, what do we know the differences are? That's what I tried to get from them. Or what are the differences from the two sites if we build on them? Like what's going to cause those? Because we don't really need to know how much that pool facility is going to cost to the penny right now because it's going to be pretty close either place, the actual pool footprint. It's really the parking, the infrastructure. So I think we've gotten that as close as we can right now without actually designing the water and electric services to the site at the fairgrounds. So long way of saying, I don't think we could have that in a couple of weeks. I think they'd have to dig further into the survey data and get us probably some numbers in a month or two.
My sense is we need a workshop on this.
Yeah, I think so.
To where we can gather up as much of the data, take some time, let's gather up all the data so that we can all really, with our professionals, really look and figure out, okay, how do we put the pieces of the puzzle together best for the long-term benefit of the community?
Okay.
And where does the Parks and Rec Board fit into this? Are they involved? Do they have opinion? Or is this just separate?
Well, when we showed them the initial slideshow, this was several months ago when we first proposed the Wellness Center partnership, they didn't vote on it, but it was positive reviews of it. Evan, you can kind of.
Yeah, for the most part, it was all positive feedback that we got. They're just more so interested in the pool than location. But that's something we can set up too and have them involved as well to get their opinion.
So logically, when you look at it, there's some of the things that are true is that you're going to have expenses in the parking lot, but you're going to invest in bathrooms probably at a different level than you are, so that the additional costs are above just the basic parking lot cost. For example, you can easily get into, at today's building prices for 2,000 square feet for 2 bathrooms and an administrative suite where you have, your pool manager or your pool administrator, you're going to end up with a $400,000 investment in a 2,000 square foot building at $200 a square foot, which is what the current build price would be. So then the thing that a study is not going to provide you, and this is one of those where the commission has to provide a little bit of management discretion. So the opportunity cost in losing your turf field is real. You're talking about having a pool that you're using a few weeks in the summer at consuming the field to the north of that access road, where if you had a multi-purpose field there, you would have, it could serve football, soccer. You could have 2 stick and ball fields on the corners facing each other. You could have a lacrosse area, for example, that we don't have. So that as an asset is real. And so I don't know how a consultant's going to be able to judge for you the opportunity loss that you would have when you lose that type of asset. That is a real loss.
What, use 9 or 10 months out of the year?
Well, you would, if
Possibly.
you use a turf field, it's a 12-month facility,
Okay.
right? Like people can access it year-round then, as long as the weather's good, above 40 degrees dry, you can use it.
Is this pool, as we're talking about, is that indoor?
No, this is an outdoor space, purely outdoor.
So if you made it indoor, you got 12-month facility.
If you construct an indoor facility, you're not talking about $3 million
Right, I
either.
understand that.
Plus $1 million. You're
I
talking about
understand
an
that.
entirely different thing.
I understand
So the Parks and Rec master plan tried to temper the financial investment on behalf of the public agencies, plural, by taking advantage of the existing assets in the community, by recommending partners throughout the community. So one of the advantages to partnering with Ephraim McDowell at that location with a pool is you already have an indoor asset there that we can reimagine, right? Also, the opportunity for competitive swimming, the hopes would be Center College in development of their natatorium. Can that be made public for the competition teams? Centers said yes, that's something they would like to consider. Not that it's a done deal, but something that they would be open-minded to consider. So that is not a simple metric to assemble opportunity cost, opportunity lost, with all those features. So there's a little bit of just management instinct that you have to deploy, and there's more limit, the sheer cost of pool to pool, right? So if the pool A is $3 million, we know the pool B is going to be $5 million by the time you build that building. So the reality is that's as far, without investing money in your consultant to narrow in those two numbers, you're going to look at that type of gap just for the outdoor facility. And I'm not really sure that, I'm not sure how you can refine that with additional. Now, I'm not suggesting you all have to make a decision tonight. Certainly a workshop can be fine to talk about it. But the idea that the city has to have a standalone facility, other cities aren't doing that. The consultant recommended partnering with the facility because it saves the taxpayers a significant amount of money. And it creates a partnership with your hospital that's frankly required to make public contribution as part of their nonprofit status, right? And so we want to lean into those two things as opportunities, and other communities have done that successfully, which is, again, the consultant wasn't trying to recommend a new wheel. The consultant was trying to take best practices and looking at the assets that this community had, comparing it to other assets of communities they had also done work in, and trying to see opportunities for this community. And one of the opportunities is, a synthetic field that can be multi-purpose that the community doesn't have access to. And so we are losing that as an asset, and that is a significant thing. Like, I don't want to underscore that just in favor of a pool. That is a significant thing.
So you can never compare an apple to an orange, one community to the other. They're all different. But again, in my meeting Friday, I was talking to the city manager of Nicholasville, and they're doing a standalone indoor.
Nicholasville doesn't have a city manager.
Well, whatever you call it.
Yeah, the city administrator. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think it would be wise on our part to get their input and see what they've got, see what process they went through. And then in reading the survey, somebody else suggested we look at Glasgow. And I don't know anything about that. But this is a big decision. And whatever we decide to do, you're going to live with it for the next 50 years. So I think we would be prudent to turn over as many rocks as we could within a reasonable time frame to make sure that we're going about this in the best interest of the community, all factors weighed in, cost being one of them, of course.
Yeah, I was going to add, I'm kind of in the same boat you all. I was looking for that magic number that kind of revealed the answer, and I don't think we're going to get that digging in. I think we're going to get some diminishing returns if we keep asking for more information about the construction and operations. I think it comes down to, is the standalone facility better or the partnership better? And I think that is, like Errol said, a really management operational decision. How do we want this to function for the next, 50 years? So I think what we can do is we can maybe change my tactic with the consultant a little bit and start looking at more examples. You brought up a couple there. We'll start looking around and seeing what other communities have done for good and for bad.
And why? Why did they come to that decision?
And look even some of these facilities that have been in the ground for 20 years and see what's worked and what hasn't worked. Right. I'll try to get you all some more information about that, and we'll try to do something. I don't know. We need to move, so next couple of weeks, try to get back together.
And if I may interject one thing, I was reviewing the Parks and Recreation participation agreement with the county in the midst of your all's discussion. And it seems like the city has invested substantially in a consultant to provide a recommendation, which you have. Our participation agreement, and that is what it is, the consultant can justify it based upon the research and wisdom that they have in this field. That's why you hired them. But the second thing is, in our participation agreement, it says this, that the purpose of the Parks and Recreation Committee is to serve to assist the Parks and Recreation Director on issues related to Parks and Recreation, including policy matters that pertain to Parks and Recreation services, and to take initiative in policies necessary for, quote, the planning for the present and future parks and recreation needs for the residents of the city and the county. So it seems like to the extent you need additional information, perhaps you do need a recommendation from Parks and Rec Committee on the consultant's opinion prior to you making your decision. That's what the committee was set up for in an advisory capacity. You have a consultant's opinion, which you paid for. You don't have an opinion on the consultant's advice from the committee.
Right.
Perhaps that's the next step to report to you, and then you're going to have another piece of the puzzle in making the ultimate decision, which rests in this board. So I was looking at that originally in response to Commissioner Holland's question. You know, we talk about Parks and Rec Board. It's actually a committee now, and it's advisory, but it was created to vet things that are precisely before you now, and to give you a recommendation or an opinion that's more community-based than you have.
Great, that'd be good. Yeah, they have a lot of arms into the community, so I'd like to hear from them.
Sure, and frankly, it's what it was designed for,
Yeah.
for precisely this situation.
And I think they'd appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, they just met last week. We can try to, we could probably try to do a special call just to get them together to vote on it, so we can go ahead and have that decision available to you all as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the point I was at the end trying to make, I know I talked a lot, but the bottom line is there's not just a magic present worth of A versus present worth of B. That's not necessarily what you're going to get to.
Rarely ever is. All right, we got a game plan there, right? Good. Item 9 is resolution number 2022-05-23-03. This is the architect fee with regards to Jenny Rogers. Mr. Morgan, continue, sir.
Yes, this is the scope and fee to take us through bid documents for Jenny Rogers. This agreement will actually be with Hub and Weber Architects. They were a part of the team that we selected with Bayer Becker. They liked this contract to be directly with them, just because it's primarily an architecture project at Jenny Rogers, and it works better for Bayer Becker just from a business and liability standpoint. I checked with Lee just to make sure from a procurement standpoint we were okay to do that, and she confirmed that it was. And it's saving us about, I think the difference in the two fees, they gave me a preliminary number and then this final number, it was about $15,000 that was saved by changing it over, and I think that was just Bayer Becker building in risk. So it was an easy decision once I saw that difference in cost. So it's a total fee in the amount of $325,675. These numbers are getting big on these fee proposals, and I think we're just getting to a point where we're starting to do some final designs on some pretty big projects. I mean, you're going to see multi-million-dollar projects come out of these designs, so these fees match up with that scale of a project.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2022-05-2303.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Commissioner Cardle, thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the fees, and I'm concerned about where we're getting this advice from folks, and I really don't understand our plan. I mean, we've got a plan in place, and it looks as if we're picking pieces out of the plan to work on, which is how you're gonna have to do it, but it just seems awful confusing. To me, this one is for what?
Jenny Rogers.
$325,000?
So the primary items that this will be the design of will be sprinkler system for Jenny Rogers will be part of this. The first phase of the site work for Jenny Rogers which will be preparing the drop-off and pickup area and the playground area for the child care center. And then the first phase of the interior work, which will be, we've got to move some walls around, we've got to renovate some bathrooms, we have to move some plumbing around, and add some exterior access for the child care center. And then we have to refinish the floors where we just took the asbestos tile out. So that's what this project will encompass. We anticipate this first phase of Jenny Rogers probably costed about $1.5 million.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay. And just page 12, just your name spelled wrong, so I don't know if that matters.
MUDD, is that how they? I got you. Thank you. Item 10 is resolution number 2022-05-23-04. This is a increase in the parks design fee. This is increase number 2. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, similar scope and fee, this time with Bayer Becker for the improvements at the fairgrounds. Just the first phase of improvements, so this includes tennis courts, baseball field, and the renovation of the metal building that we anticipate Parks offices moving into. So total scope and fee for this is $280,400. And I didn't mention on the last one, all of this will come out of the Parks Development Capital line item, which has a budget of $6,125,000.
Do I hear a motion?
Move for approval of resolution 2022-05-2304.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? No discussion. Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 11 is resolution number 2022-05-23-05. This is a streetscape construction administration fee. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, this is the scope and fee proposal from Gresham Smith to do construction administration and bidding for the streetscape project. It's in the amount of $195,800, which at their recent estimate of $4.8 million for the project, that's an appropriate number for construction admin, which should be about a quarter of total design cost. And just an update on streetscape, we are opening bids tomorrow on the streetscape project, and we're going to try to have it on the agenda Thursday at your budget meeting to award the bids if we get a good bid. So that's the latest on it, and the goal is still to break ground the week after Brass Band Festival. So.
We're just now taking bids?
Yes. Well, we had to have it out for at least a month, so we advertised it over a month ago. But yes, we're cutting it close on the timeline, but we also just received comments from KYTC on our permit just a couple of weeks ago. We've had to incorporate those comments in as addendums. Still meeting with them Wednesday, so it's a tight timeline on this project, but I think I feel like we're still in a window of time that we could make this happen.
Would they know that when they present their bids? They
Yes.
know what the construction date
Yeah,
is?
we
and
discussed
that
it with
is-
them at the pre-bid meeting that we would like to start the project June 6th, and we've given them the completion dates for Main Street, and they are aware of it, yes.
Okay, and not, we would like to, we will.
Yes, yeah. It's in their contract to meet those dates, so yes.
Okay, I just didn't realize that was still hanging out there. I thought we were ready to go.
Yeah, we have and some more information for you all. We have a meeting, Heart of Danville has organized a meeting Thursday evening to talk to downtown businesses and property owners about the project. We'll know a little more after we open bids tomorrow, and we'll have the meeting Thursday morning here to award. So we'll have some more information to provide them, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the upcoming parking regulation review with CenterWorks as well.
We have a motion and a second, and any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Atkins,
Yes, sir.
what's your vote on that one, please?
Oh, I'm for no.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm sorry, unless we missed it, we don't have a record of a motion and a second on that account.
I'm sorry.
Just pretend. I move for approval of Resolution 2022-052305. Is that it?
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Terry, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Moving right along to item 12, resolution number 2022-05-23-06. This is a grant application for trails. Mr. Morgan?
Yes, they're open for recreational trails grant applications right now. They'll be open through the end of the month. We've met with the Trails Alliance and visited the site, and the project that we were asking to apply for would be a 10-foot multi-use paved trail along Lebanon Road, connecting the existing woven wire mountain bike park trailhead and the trailhead down on Lebanon Road near Corporate Drive that's currently under construction. The project would be $312,500, of which $62,500 would have to be a match from the city. And we were requesting to be able to submit that application.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
So move to
Thank-
pass 2022-05-2306 as presented.
Thanks, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion?
I appreciate the map, Josh, because I was having trouble visualizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we stood out there, we tried to decide the right route to go, because you could go on either side of Lebanon Road, you could go along the creek, and this seemed like the most feasible project that would be able to get through a grant application.
Any further comments? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 13 is resolution number 2022-05-23-07. This is a land and water grant application. Mr. Morgan, continue, please.
Yes, same kind of setup here with land and water conservation grant applications. They're due at the end of the month as well. Evan and I had a discussion about where these projects usually go towards parks. Actually, land and water conservation grant, if you use a land and water conservation grant on a park, it has to remain a park forever. It's kind of one of the stipulations of it. So one of the things we discussed is starting to build a database of our playgrounds. Because the hard thing about finding a project for these grants is that you have to have something that you need, but you also can wait 2 years on, and you may not get an award for. And that's what we looked at a lot of our master plan projects that we're working on. It's like, well, can we wait 2 years? Is it going to hold up other parts of the grant, bigger project? So we kind of thought, well, let's just build a database of playgrounds that we have and find the oldest ones and start replacing them with these grants. We just kind of keep a steady stream of playground replacements, and at that time also do rubberized surfaces, just so we can modernize our playgrounds. The one that's in most need of replacement is the one at Butler Drive Park. I think, Earl, did you mention it was at Lexington Avenue Park before and got moved there?
Yes, that was the water plant playground.
So it's showing a lot of age and something that is in need of replacement. So we're requesting, it's $160,000 is the total project cost, about $100,000 structure, then plus the rubberized surface, plus labor for install, about $160,000. That's a 50-50 grant, so the city will need to commit $80,000 to that project with the application.
So where are we here?
Need a motion?
We need a motion, yes, please.
I'll move. Approval of resolution 2022-05-2307.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle? Thank you, sir. Discussion? No discussion, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 14 is a codes enforcement report. Ms. Lester, thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Mayor. Too many things in my hand. You have before you the report for the month of April. We've had 37 business licenses issued, and we've had 76 inspections and issued 41 parking citations. We recovered 2 liens and 1 citation that we had issued. We have activated the EDC for 2 events, the Entertainment Destination Center license. We have had 2 events thus far, one last month with the Heart of Danville, and then another one this past week with the Heart of Danville. Just some small events to utilize the Entertainment Destination Center license, and we learn a little bit each time. We have a large order of the cups that we'll need for that coming in this week that have been ordered. They're clear cups with the city logos on them. We have issued 3 alcohol licenses to new businesses. One for Bricks and Brews, which is on 4th Street, Early Bird Brunch, which is out on the bypass, and La Cosa Nostra, I think I'm saying this right. We've issued their license to them. I have 4 more applicants in process that are going through the process to get an alcohol license for this. We've had 1 officer on medical leave and 1 officer who had a death in the family, so we've really pushed that officer to get a lot done this month. Architectural Heritage Board had 3 COAs that they completed this past month, and they've consulted with 3 business owners and did a long list of site follow-ups as far as that goes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Where are we on the noise ordinance and possible moratorium for that?
We have a follow-up meeting with Zone Code this week. Tomorrow, I forget the time, that's in progress. We're working on that right now. Not just the moratorium, but a solution, an actual permanent solution. And I'll have an update tomorrow. We can send that out by email.
I had I know I told you on Lisa Avenue, there were residents that had complained about the growth from the Danville Manor side encroaching on their fences.
Yeah, I don't know that she's aware of it. We'll have to give you an update on that tomorrow. She probably doesn't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and thanks for always being available for just very prompt responses and passing them along.
You're
So,
welcome.
Thank you.
That concludes our regular meeting agenda. Do we have need for an executive session?
Yes, sir. Litigation, property acquisition, and personnel.
The trifecta.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move for approval. I'll move to go into executive session. I was going to move for approval for that. I'll move to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters pursuant to KRS 618101F. Also to discuss, is it pending or possible?
Possible.
Possible litigation for which disclosure of details might compromise litigation posture pursuant to KRS 618101C. And property acquisition. Also for property acquisition for which publicity at present stage might or would be likely to affect the value per KRS 618101B.
We have a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Terry, second by Commissioner Cardle. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Everyone have a pleasant evening. And you're still around an hour and a half from now. All in favor of moving back into regular session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We're in regular session. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you. Staff is recommending the hiring of Cameron Meyers to the position of Parks and Rec Maintenance Worker.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you. Discussion?
Glad to have you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Have a good evening.